Thank you everybody for coming in this evening. I'm looking forward to the discussion this evening, and I'm going to kick it off with a short presentation that's focused on the opportunity and challenges that are facing genetics professionals at this time of great growth, and how we might use other types of technical support to meet the growing demand for genetic services. And although much of what I talk about will focus on the genetic counselor perspective, there are many similar issues that are facing everybody in the sphere, including geneticists as well. So for many of you, this might be a continuation of discussions you've started before today, or it might be something that's entirely new. My first discussion about this was at the NSGC conference in Pittsburgh about a year ago, and this was also in the discussions of those at the meeting in Seattle recently. And the issues with genetic technical assistance is starting to intersect with workforce issues, so it's a timely topic, and there's a working group including members of various organizations, the ASHG, NSGC, ABGC, and a few other groups that are working on assessing and addressing the supply and demand for genetic counseling services. So professional status surveys can provide a good basis to start to inform these discussions. And this year's PSS for the NSGC membership gave us results that are not surprising, but they are illustrative of some of the common issues that are showing up right now. So the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics projects a growth rate of 7% for all professions over the next 10 years. Genetic counseling profession is projected at 29%, so this is really a growing area, and this does seem to be holding true, which I'll get to that in a couple of slides with some more information. We now have over 4,000 board-certified genetic counselors, and the membership to the American Board of Genetic Counseling has increased 75% in the past 10 years. The professional status survey asks genetic counselors about their satisfaction with their job, and 9 out of 10 genetic counselors report being satisfied. And Linda's going to talk a little bit about that 1 in 10 genetic counselors and some of the key issues that have been identified as reasons for being dissatisfied as a genetic counselor, and being overworked is one of them. This is some data that was compiled by Quinn Stein, who's a genetic counselor out of Sanford Imagenetics. We've seen job openings for genetic counselors skyrocket in the past 3 years, and this is not how things were back when I was graduating and we were competing with our classmates over the few jobs that were available. So I'm really glad for the graduating students that there are a lot more opportunities, and that this seems to be continuing to grow. So thinking about these issues led me to write a guest post for the DNA Exchange blog, where I talk in more detail about my thoughts, but there are 3 main points that support and summarize what are relevant to this topic tonight. The first one is evolving the profession of genetic counseling, which I described as listening for the needs, speaking up, getting involved, and advocating for ourselves and for our clients and patients. And related to that is continuing to expand the professional role and the sphere in which genetics professionals are engaged. So this has always happened. There was always a first geneticist or a first genetic counselor to specialize in an area or a new role, be it cancer or cardiovascular genetics or newborn screening, a faculty position, or working with a lab or in industry. So this is nothing new, but it is something that we are seeing happening in more directions than we have in the past. And finally, embracing the development of the genetic counseling assistant role. We cannot do it all if we want to meet the demand. So I launched my own solo venture earlier this year, Watershed DNA, to provide private consultations on ancestry and other home DNA tests and raw data support. And this was in response to some individual groups in particular that were asking for a genetic counselor to get involved and be available for consults on this type of testing. So I've been able to fill a niche in an area that was needing and asking for an expert, and right now I'm able to meet the demand, but I think forward to the future when more people have an understanding of what genetic counselors are and do, more people have had testing, and I think about how I might need to engage assistants at some point. So what are we to do? I think most important, we need to view this as opportunity. We have a big opportunity in front of us, and it's important that we rise to it and consider all of the options that are available to us. It's important that we embrace change and creativity. Change can be scary, but it can also be good and sometimes necessary. And finally, rather than retaining a hold on all the tasks we were once able to do ourselves, let's consider the saying, many hands make light work. How can we divide the work so that we are using the most important skills we are not able to delegate to anybody else, and whose hands can we train up and share the rest of our work with? It's hard to turn over control. It's hard to determine what's in our scope of practice and what can be given to others. And this is why we're starting this conversation today. It's important to hear from people like Linda about how it can work to include a genetic counseling assistant and how it does work. So I look forward to Linda's talk about her institution's experience with genetic counseling. So let's talk about these issues tonight and think through them together and see how others are making it work and learn from them.